We are live and it is time to get real. Listen, if you've been circling the edges of real estate investing and raising capital, maybe stuck in learning mode, listening to podcasts, going to events, maybe even making spreadsheets about deals you could do, but you still haven't raised a single dollar, I want you to hear this. It's not because you're not smart. It's not because you're not ready. And it's definitely not because you were not meant for this. The real reason you haven't raised capital yet, it's not strategy, it's about energy. And today we're going to talk about what's really been holding you back and how to shift it because once you do, everything changes. I've seen women raise six figures on their first deal after making this shift. And I've helped women go from terrified to talk about money to confidently raising over $500,000 in a couple months. And it starts with getting honest about what's in your way and how to move through it. So let's dive in. This is what we're going to talk about in today's episode of Getting Real. So first, let's talk about the fears. There are three big hidden fears that I believe keep women from raising capital. And I see them all the time. And frankly, I had the same fear. So I get it. The first fear, it really boils down to a fear of not enough, right? And it'll sound like, um, I don't have enough experience. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough of my own money. I don't have enough. I don't know enough, right? This is the not enough fear. And underneath all of that belief is I am not enough. Is that thought that y- somehow it's your core lacking. And that's a fear that keeps you in research mode, feels safe there. It feels like you're moving forward because you're learning, getting ready to get ready to get ready to get ready. Um, and that feels like movement, but you're not moving forward. You're not actually putting yourself out there. You're stuck in preparation instead of participation. So that's a big one. Um, Now, the second one is a fear of failure. And this one says, like, what if I mess up? What if I lose someone's money? What if I get it wrong? What if I don't know what I'm doing? And it keeps you waiting for this perfect moment, a perfect pitch, a perfect timing, a perfect deal. But perfection is just a delay tactic. That moment you're waiting for, it doesn't exist. But I do want to also take a moment to talk about like, what if I lose someone's money? That fear is real, right? And frankly, I think that if you don't have that fear, you shouldn't be doing this. I think people who are not terrified to lose other people's money should not be raising other people's money and should not be doing this. You really should care so much you don't lose people's money. You should lose sleep over losing people's money, and that will make you more careful. And I think that people who do care are the ones who should do this. People who don't care about losing other people's money should stay away from this, right? It's the ones that care. So don't get me wrong. I'm terrified about losing other people's money. And in the dozens of deals that I've fundraised for, there's one in particular where we've lost people money, and it's horrifying. It's terrible. But that doesn't mean if, you don't go into it, because like any investment, right? Anything, there's always a possibility of losing money. So you just make sure that people have that clarity, right? And you have those conversations with investors to make sure that they know what the risks are, and also that you're careful about what you're putting people's money into. But I think we want people who care uh, to be the stewards of this money. And so don't let that fear keep you out of the game. In fact, it's a sign I think you should be in it. The third fear is a fear of success. And so this one is sometimes it's counterintuitive, but it sounds like, what if I do this and it's successful and I can't handle it? What if I grow my current life or my current people? What if everything changes, right? There's this, sometimes there's a fear that we fail, and then other times a fear that the success will be too scary. And that will often show up in self sabotage. So you get close, you're about to make the calls and the email, post about your deal, and then you disappear. So the first step in moving through these fears is recognizing them and naming them, right? So if you recognized any of that in yourself, like, put in the comment, but also, kind of applaud yourself for seeing it, right? If you can't see it, you can't deal with it. So that's the first step. The next step is about reclaiming your power. Okay. Um, so this is not about strategy, about energy. So here's what most people don't talk about. Raising capital is not just about what you say. It's about who you are when you say it, how you're being. It's not about having some fancy investor pitch with every word perfect. It's about having the right presence. If your energy is uncertain or apologetic, afraid to be seen, or desperate, that's what people pick up on. Even if you're reading from this like perfect script, when you show up rooted, clear, in service, people feel that too and they lean in. Let me talk about the service piece, because when you are raising money and you have investors, they are not investing 99.999% of the time for you, right? It's not a gift to you, a favor to you. They are doing it because they want their money to do something for them. They would like to have their money go out and come back with friends. They would like either, to get that income and or the tax benefits, um, something, right? There is something that they want that investing in your opportunity will give them. When you focus on what's in it for them, right? How this helps them reach their goals versus, it being about you, then that really helps. Right? To that being of service and like, how can I help you? That's a totally different energy than, would you give me money so I can do this deal? Right? About when it's about you, because it's not about you, for them. I remember when I first heard about syndication, I first heard about bringing investors together to purchase larger commercial properties. And then I started to see the returns that were possible. And I'd been investing at this point in Los Angeles, my own project, where I was doing the work, I was self managing, and I was barely cash flowing, barely cash flowing, because LA, if you, it's an appreciation game here. It's hard to cash flow. And I didn't even realize that was a thing, that was a possibility. And then I heard from my mentor at the time. So at that point, I had a couple duplexes, but mostly we were flipping. And I was looking to buy a fourplex, but nothing made any sense. And then I met at that time, a man who would become one of my mentors, Robert Helms of the Real Estate Guys radio. And he told me, one, it's like LA, the top market. I always say, live where you want to live, invest where the numbers make sense. And I went, oh, you can do that? I just assumed you had to invest where you could drive to your property, touch it, self manage it. Did not occur to me that I could invest outside of my market. So that was a huge paradigm shift and opened up a lot for me. The next thing he said was, and you can buy this fourplex by yourself, but you're limited to your own capital and credit. Alternatively, you can bring a group of investors together and purchase a 100 or 200 unit apartment building. And I was like, brain blown, like, what? That's a thing that's possible? And then I got into this world and I started to see these opportunities and these deals. And there were deals getting back like the double digit returns. And for passive investors, for people who were not doing any work, they were just putting their money and it was coming back with friends. And we started to get into this flow of these deals and we passively invested as well as actively invested. But here's the thing. So as I was looking at these returns, I was like, I've been working so hard doing this by myself, having virtually no cash flow, like zero. Like my returns were anemic. For a lot of the time I owned the property, the returns were negative. I was getting negative cash flow. I was paying to own it. Right. And then I find out about these opportunities where I don't have to do any work and I'm getting like, 15, 18, 20 plus percent annualized returns. And this was possible. So at the time I mentioned this to one of my law school friends. And he was like, "Oh yeah. Yeah, I know about this because there's another friend of ours from law school. I've been investing. He does this. He brings investors together. I've been investing with him for years. Oh, I've made a fortune." And I remember thinking, well, gee, it would have been nice if somebody told me about this. Like, I would have loved to have made a fortune, right? Here I was like scrambling to do all this myself and, not making losing money, right? Paying in. Well, I was getting, you know, equity and what it was appreciation, but really I was losing money every month, paying out every month instead of making money with these passive opportunities. I was like, ah, nobody told me this was a thing. Nobody told me this was possible. And it would have been really nice if they had. And so partly what I did, and I have this investor club on my website. If you go to reigoddesses.com and you can fill out a form and we'll get on a call and you're part of this investor club. But I created that so people would have access to these opportunities. They would have access to them because oftentimes you need to have a pre-existing relationship. You need to have a relationship with the person who's doing these deals in order to be able to get into them. And so, I if you want to get on my list or our list and find out about our opportunities, then please go there and sign up. But if you're the one that wants to be the active investor, understand that you are doing you're it's a favor. It's helpful to the people that you're inviting into these opportunities to know about it, to have access to it, right? This is a gift. This is a benefit to them to be invited. I was annoyed that nobody told me about these things, right? I had to find it myself. And so part of why I do this is to give other people access to these opportunities. And it's really important that, if you're feeling this call, like understand that you're doing a service to other people. You're helping them be able to grow their wealth. It's win, win, win. And when you show up with that energy, it's very, very different than, oh, please give me money so I can grow my portfolio. Nobody's giving you money to grow your portfolio. That's not why they're giving you money. It will be a benefit of them giving you money that will happen. This is why you go and ask, right? So you can do these things um, for yourself and your family and your community, but it also helps them. So the more you can show up that way, the better. That's a very different energy. So when that's the energy and it's like, let me help you, investor, reach your goals, people will lean in. So if you're feeling blocked about raising capital, don't look at a script and try to tweak it. Check your energy. What's the energy you're coming in with? All right. Now I want to talk about this more masculine versus feminine way of raising capital. This is about the how you raise it. Because the masculine style, it's traditionally been taught it's like a pitch and pursue, pitch hard, push through objections, hustle, grind. It's a lot of pressure and performance energy with that. But that's not the only way. And this feminine style of capital raising is very different. It's softer, but it's more powerful. It's it's more about invitation rather than trying to convince anyone. It's about sharing, not selling. It's about leading with connection, not control or manipulation. So you're showing up in your truth, you're showing up to share your vision, and to offer an aligned opportunity. And you trust that the right people will say yes, and they will, and they do. So it's not about being passive, it's about being magnetic, and it works. So, um, and then let's talk about what happens when you stop waiting for perfection, perfect deal, the perfect script, the perfect whatever. And you just start showing up. So, what happens when you move from waiting for perfection to showing up? Everything happens. Anything happens because nothing happens if you're waiting for perfection because perfection does not exist. It's the ultimate procrastination strategy. There's no standard with a perfection because it doesn't exist. So when you can move from that to showing up, everything starts to happen. When you speak your vision out loud, people begin to see you differently. When you own your role as a leader, investors start leaning in. And here's what I want you to know. You don't need a deal to start raising capital. In fact, it's often easier because when you have an active deal and time pressure, it's a different energy. So you don't need a deal. So if you have a deal, then of course this works still. But you just need clarity, you need connection, and you need courage. You can raise money more easily, in my opinion, for a hypothetical deal. You have conversations that set you up for real commitments later. That only happens when you show up. Right? Um, all right. So if you're thinking, okay, I'm ready to start, but I don't know if I'm actually prepared to raise capital, I have something for you. I created this free resource. It's called 10 Essentials You Need Before Asking for Capital. And it's simple. It's a simple, but a powerful checklist that helps you figure out exactly where you are and what you still need before you talk to investors. And this is a tool that will help you clarify your capital raising message, identify your investor avatar, build your confidence, and know exactly what to do next. So, whether you're brand new or just refining your process, this checklist is for you. And you can download it at www.10 tinyurl.com/10 essentials for capital raising. 10, then 10, 10 essentials for capital raising. And that gift is a great first step in becoming the kind of woman investors will say yes to. Speaking of women, they have found that women prefer investing with other women. And guess what? Men prefer investing with women. So you definitely have a leg up on men in this process. So, and we also have a Goddess Capital Collective, a group starting to help women do this, because I think it's really important that more women are raising capital. I want to create a movement of high integrity women that are raising capital, that are providing opportunities for other people, right? This is cascading ripple effect that helps everyone when empowered women are like leading these deals and sharing opportunities. So I invite you, if you're interested, to please join me in that. Okay, so let's close as the end of our show. We're going to close with our famed end of show trinity, which is a brag, a gratitude, and a desire. So a brag or celebration. I brag that I looked recently to add up how much money I've raised since I started, and I've raised over $22 million personally, which is like pretty dang cool. Never, ever thought it'd be that much. So, and then with my partners, it's been like 9 figures, but personally, not just personally, 22 million. So I celebrate that. And I brag that. And I'm grateful for my investors. I'm really, really grateful um, that for that win-win relationship. And I every day I pray for for them to be, to get all that they desire more. Um and I desire a movement of capital raising goddesses, like women that are really growing in this way, that are bringing investors into these opportunities, especially people who normally do not have access to these types of opportunities, who normally never hear about them. So I desire that we create this movement, this ripple effect, this cascade of wealth, especially in traditionally underrepresented um, communities, and that you goddesses grow and your investors grow, and then everybody is uplifted and enriched. So that is my desire. And um I thank you. I thank you for getting real with me today. So if you've been waiting for permission, this is it. This is it. You've got permission. It's time. Start building your network. Start sharing your vision. Start being seen. Start getting out there and inviting people. So grab the checklist. It will guide you through those next steps with clarity and confidence. Let's get real. Let's stay real. And let's rise together. Bye-bye.